Now for a conversation that may feel local, but I'm saying it's national.
No.
Because it has some big implications. No, for the way so many states operate.
Comptroller?
First time in 18 years, New York State's controller or comptroller, it's called comptroller here in the state of New York. Other people may call it a controller. Thomas DiNapoli has a challenger. This concerns investments affecting millions of New Yorkers. Joining us right now is that challenger, Drew Warshaw, candidate for New York State Comptroller or Controller. We can decide later what it is. He has not had any competition, and you have a take on what's gone on here in the state of New York that I think actually may be relevant, as I said, for the rest of the country, frankly.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. And first of all, look, the one reason I am running for New York State Comptroller is New Yorkers cannot afford to live in New York. And the state comptroller, has been there 18 years, and he oversees our taxes, he oversees our spending, and he is the sole fiduciary, he's the sole trustee of the third largest public pension fund in the United States of America, $275 billion. And for the last 18 years, he has done nothing to address the affordability crisis. And I am going to show that the New York State Comptroller can and will address this crisis.
So you've done a study that's looked at his performance. So part of being a controller of any state like this is managing and overseeing the assets of that state and investing those assets. And you believe that he has either mismanaged those assets or you believe that he has invested them in products that carry fees that we shouldn't be, as taxpayers, paying. And I imagine this is probably true of New York, but as I said, could be true of many states.
That's right. Taxpayers fund the public pension fund. And it is a rare thing to be able to quantify the performance of an elected official. But this guy's been there 18 years. And so that's exactly what we did. We looked at his investment history. And over the last 18 years, he has paid $11 billion in our property taxes and our state income taxes to a bunch of bankers, literally hundreds of bankers, to try and beat the market. And guess what? They didn't even come close. They underperformed his own benchmarks by 37% and cost the taxpayers $55 billion in the process. This is the DiNapoli tax that we need to get rid of.
How much? Okay, but just so I understand, and by the way, there are lots of states that are sending money to different private equity funds, venture capital funds, and the like. They're not all, we were talking about passive, funds at Vanguard, for example. Most states are not doing it that way, I don't think.
Yeah.
What percentage of New York pension funds are being sent, as you would say, to Wall Street at these high-fee products versus ETFs or things, and what would you do differently?
Yeah, and this is why I agree with you that this could be a national issue, because we have an opportunity to cut out the Wall Street middleman that is sucking value from our taxpayers. And we're talking about an affordability crisis. We need to keep our property taxes down and our state income taxes down. And why are we trying to beat the market? First day of
Why are we trying to beat the market? I want you to beat the market.
First day of Columbia Business School, what do they tell me? You can't beat the market net of fees. So what has this guy done? He's hired 378 different investment managers. And last year alone, he paid them $1.1 billion in taxpayer fees to try and do something that
is this
fundamentally
the 2 and 20 piece of it? And by the way, it sounds like you're saying there's not the 20 piece of it is not as big as it should be.
The which piece?
I said 2 and 20.
Yeah.
2% for the management fee, I assume. A lot of these guys are getting paid.
Yeah.
And then they're getting paid 20% of the profits.
Yeah. He's paying 50 basis points. We can pay 3. That's the fundamental
By doing
difference.
what?
By investing our money in simple index funds. We need to radically simplify the investment approach, and we need to spend our time focused not on trying to pick the pickers, not trying to pick which bankers are going to try and beat the market. We need to focus on solving the affordable housing crisis. No. We need to take these guys. We need to audit Con Ed. We need to audit NYSEG. We need to audit these public utilities that are jacking our electricity rates. That's what we should be spending our time doing.
Let me ask you a different question. This is maybe a larger philosophical question since you've looked at all of this.
Yeah.
Right now, there is a movement afoot among the consumer class, actually, to democratize, what they would say, democratize investing, to give retail investors access to the private equity funds and venture capital funds that you're saying effectively, I think, you think this state should not be putting money in. I ask because, as you know, there's a move to actually even put or give access to retail investors to put these things in 401k plans. Yeah. Do you think that's a mistake?
That's right. Donald Trump wants to allow retail investors to invest in private equity and to take their money and to light it on fire in the form of fees. That is what Tom DiNapoli has done. He has quintupled the amount of investment that the third largest public pension fund invests in private equity. And as a result of that, he's taken our property tax money and our income tax, and he's lit that money on fire.
Okay, but what about like the Yale Endowment, which famously made a small fortune by investing in things like venture capital and private equity?
Yeah, and you know what they're doing now? They're selling it all. They're selling all of their private assets. They literally just a couple weeks ago announced one of the largest secondary market private equity sales. For the last 15 years, interest rates have been zero. Cash money has been flowing into the private equity asset class, right? Making that market more and more efficient. They are not getting the returns. We have to stop thinking that we can beat the market. We got to cut out the Wall Street middleman, save taxpayers' money, and just earn the market rate of
We're
return.
going to have DiNapoli on at some point because I assume he has a retort to all of this.
You should ask him because he's been there 18 years and he's been doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results, and he's underperformed the market by 37%. Cost taxpayers
This is a terrible question.
$55 billion.
Do you believe that the average New Yorker understands the issues that you're describing? Our audience, I think, probably does. I hope.
I think the average New Yorker understands that they are paying too much in taxes and their costs keep going up. And one of the fundamental reasons is because their tax dollars are going downtown to hundreds of Wall Street bankers who are fundamentally not doing their job. And if we didn't do our job for the last 18 years, we'd be fired. Yeah, and these guys keep getting paid.
So
that's where Donald Trump comes in. He'd say, you're fired.
Right, and they're so smart, they're going to elect Zoran Mamdani as the next mayor. That's how smart they are.
Look, he has put his finger on the affordability crisis.
God almighty.
And
we know that.
And that is what we
Joe was liking you for a while.
That's the need.
But Joe, here's the thing.
That's the knee-jerk reaction that every enabling politician says about Mamdani. Instead of saying, no, I reject him completely. Yes.
People look to the mayor to solve the affordability crisis. They look to the governor and they say, ma'am, what are you doing to solve the affordability?
All right, raising taxes.
Exactly no one has looked to the state comptroller over the last 18 years
there's too many taxes and
to
then
solve the
and
affordability crisis. Why aren't we using
Didn't you just say taxes were way too high? So you want to elect this guy now?
Why aren't we using the state comptroller's position to address the affordability? This guy is sitting on all this power and all this money,
you're back to DiNapoli.
and he is doing nothing to solve this crisis.
Right.
And we can, and we should, and we will.
Okay, but just to be clear, who are you supporting for mayor of New York City?
He is the Democratic nominee. I'm supporting the Democratic nominee for mayor.
And does that make economic sense to you? His economic policies?
Give me an example.
You know what they are.
Free buses.
Free
I believe he wants to take out $70 billion of debt to pay for all sorts of things in the state.
So
you're talking about
So he's talking about affordable housing. You know what I want to do? I want to take $10 billion of this $275 billion public pension fund. I want to start the largest affordable housing fund in the United States. Why isn't any of this money? This money's going to hedge funds. It's going to private equity money. Why isn't it going into homes that people?
You'd be prepared to go into debt for that?
This is why, guys, we're sitting on $275 billion. Why don't we start there and start investing that money, earn a great rate of return?
We're going to run out of time. We got to go.